Good afternoon. We are continuing with Unit 11. Remember, this is our last week of this unit. Next week will be the practice test and the test. So, today we are doing CO168. I can classify a triangle by its sides. I can classify a triangle by its sides and angles. So we're working with those triangles. We did review triangles real quick before the map test. So we had a brief review of it. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper. So a triangle is a polygon like we talked about yesterday. With how many sides?
3.
Yeah, with 3, because tri means 3. 3 sides and angles. And this is our important note. Angles always what? Angles always sum or total. Sum and total mean the same thing to 180 degrees. Very important to know when you're working with the triangle. Always, always, always angles equal 180 degrees. There are several different types of triangles and are classified by their sides or by their angles. So it's really important to note, in my Math 6 class, we just worked with classifying the triangles, and some of us got tripped up if it was a side classification or an angle classification. So you have to pay attention. Are we looking at their sides? Are we looking at the angles? So classifying a triangle by its sides. So on the test, if you get a question asking about, tell me the 3 side triangles classified by sides, I don't want to see obtuse triangle. That's not talking about sides. We want the ones that are talking about their sides. So a scalene triangle has no congruent sides. We're going to use that word congruent so we get used to it. We know congruent means equal, but I want you to get used to that term. So no congruent sides might look like that. None of the sides are the same length. What does an isosceles triangle mean, Joseph?
2 of more equal sides.
2 congruent sides.
Well, sometimes there can be 3. Yeah.
What do we call it if there are 3? So we use that term equilateral. I think on Khan Academy, they just used isosceles.
Yeah.
But on our test, we'll do isosceles with just 2 congruent sides. So if we're going to draw it, what important thing do I need to put on it? The hashtag mark, no, not hashtag, the hash marks to show that they are congruent sides. So the equilateral triangle has 3 congruent sides. So again, it's important that you put those hash marks on it to show that they are all the same. So if I were to put numbers to these, this might be 4, 8, and 7. This could be 10, 10, and 6. And this could be 5, 5, 5. So it's just showing you that those sides with the hash marks are the same length. Now we have our angle classifications. So an acute triangle would have what? All of them are acute. So 3 acute angles.
So it's like an equal.
Nope. So I could have 30, I could have 40, and I could have, nope, I couldn't have 30 and 40. Let me redo this real quick. So let's see what he has. He has 60, 80, and 40. Because we want all three of those angles to equal what?
180.
180 degrees. So I couldn't go with what I first did because it wouldn't have equaled 180 being all acute. Now, our next angle is our right triangle. What does our right triangle have to have, Sam?
It's a triangle with one angle.
It has one right angle. And we know a right angle is that 90 degrees. We know it's a right angle because it has that box. So we could say this is 65 and this is 25, which equals 90, plus our 90-degree right angle would be 180 degrees. So a right triangle has a right angle. Obtuse triangle. What is an obtuse triangle? Caitlin?
Doesn't it have one obtuse angle?
It has one obtuse angle. So remember that obtuse angle is bigger than 180 degrees. So maybe that's 140 degrees, and this is 25 degrees, and this is 15 degrees. Now the reason we couldn't say the acute triangle has one acute angle is look at our obtuse triangle has acute angles also. So the acute triangle has to be all three are acute. Otherwise you're going to end up with an obtuse triangle. Acute triangle, all three are acute. The obtuse triangle, only one is obtuse. Paul.
So on the test, when we see a square and a acute triangle on that, what we have to measure is the angle with the protractor.
No, you can tell by seeing it. It will be obvious the obtuse angle is bigger than 90 degrees. It'll be obvious. Chase.
Can there be an obtuse triangle with more than one?
That is a great question. Can there be an obtuse triangle with more than one obtuse angle? So let's look at our obtuse angle. Could I make now this angle be obtuse?
No.
No, because then it doesn't connect. So maybe I want to try to make this one obtuse. Nope, I'm not going to be able to connect it. So in order to be a triangle, it can only have one obtuse angle. Because otherwise you have to be able to connect that and that to make it three sides. So it can only have one obtuse angle. Well, if it's an acute triangle, you can't have an up. It has to be all three are acute. Good question. This was a new one for me, but I can figure out what it means because of my knowledge of other parts of the word. Equiangular triangle. I've never heard of it before. I've never actually used it, but we can figure it out. What does it mean, Garrison?
All the sides are angles.
Be careful. If it's angular, it means angles. So we would have three congruent, because remember, we're using our big kid words. We're not going to say equal. We're going to say congruent. Three congruent angles. Because angular means angles, and lateral means side. So it's just good terms to know. So three congruent angles If they're all the exact same, what do they have to be for a measurement?
60.
60. If it is an equal angular triangle, what else do we know about it?
That they're all different angles.
It's an equilateral triangle too. An equal angular triangle is going to be an equilateral triangle. Yeah. All right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions on those? Okay. So, Paul's question was, do we need our protractor if we have to say what kind of angles we have on the test? Look at that next section right under it. Oops. There we go. He gives us our angle measurements and our size. So we don't have to do the measuring. Okay. So classify each triangle by its angles and its sides. So I'm going to see two names of triangles. Tell me what its side name is and tell me what its angle name is. So I'm going to need to see two for each of them. Does that make sense? So give me the side name, then give me the angle name. Then you're going to draw the triangle that's described. Label each with side length and angle measures. No, it doesn't have to be exact. On the examples that I wrote on there, I drew my triangle and I said, these two sides are equal. Let's say they're 5. This side is smaller than the 5, so I'm going to say 3. Didn't have to be exact, but it does have to make sense. If they are congruent sides, they should be the same length measurement. If it's an acute angle, it should be smaller than 90 degrees. Okay, so make it make sense on the test. If it's an acute triangle and you give me one of the angles is 100 degrees, I'm going to mark it wrong because an acute triangle cannot have an angle that's 100 degrees. That's obtuse. So it has to make sense. Okay. Determine if the given statement is true or false. If it is false, explain why. So you have to write out why it is false. And then we have review. Vertical angles, concave quadrilateral, decagon, supplementary angles, just to keep it fresh, because there's all these new terms. So keep it fresh. Any questions on today's work? Okay, from my friends at home, we hope you are well, and we hope to see you soon.